Okay. Um, Meet Mr. Ditsa. I hope I pronounced it well. Apologies if I didn't. And he will be taking us on diversity, the key to getting ahead as a finance professional. Diversity, the key to getting ahead as a finance professional. So what he's going to be doing is going to further buttress what has been said and also tell us some other things that we don't know about yet. Mr. Deep is an FCCA qualified accountant with over 5 years PQE experience in various industries, ranging from practice, private, and public sector. I hope you can see why the topic fits his profile. He communicates effectively with both senior and mid-level management, as well as financial and non-financial stakeholders. He is accustomed to providing recommendations to an organization to improve processes and procedures, exploit opportunities, and mitigate risk. He is proactive and highly focused with a logical approach to problem solving and strong investigative and analytical skills. In his spare time, he teaches and enjoys traveling. He will be teaching us today. So it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Deep. Hello, sir.
Oh, hi there. Hi, everyone. Can I guess first of all, I would like to say thank you very much for inviting me to speak today. It's been very fascinating stuff, actually. Even though I'm based in the UK, I can see a lot of similarities with just the general topics, the kind of overseeing of the different challenges facing accountants globally. And I feel like even though I'm sitting in the UK, I can feel how people are thinking there and how people are behaving and how they're trying to react to different situations. So thank you very much for inviting me, and it's been really a pleasure so far. What I would like to do is give you a bit of experience and exposure to my career journey and the diversity I've kind of enjoyed. And one would say that my journey has been completely different potentially to many traditional accountants. And I would say see myself as a modern accountant and someone who's experienced things which I guess I've been lucky enough, but also I've been hungry and determined to actually get exposure to. So what I've done is to keep it very simple and also make it very easy to digest. I've prepared a PowerPoint presentation which I can share with you, and this will be roughly 10 slides, so don't worry, I'm not going to bore you to death. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. And we're just going to start it now. So the first slide, obviously, just the introduction to me, really. I'll just give you a quick background about me. So I am FCCA qualified. I did a degree in economics, and my next step, I'm doing an MBA at Oxford Brookes starting in 2021. So as you can see already, my education is already being very diverse from where I started from economics to now qualifying as an accountant. But now I'm thinking forward. I'm thinking about my next steps as a MBA and how I can actually become a CEO or lead a company from different industries. My current role actually is head of commercial and IT. So I oversee finance, but I don't actually work in finance anymore. I have a team who I oversee and review their work. But again, I do not get down to the debits and credits like I used to before when I started off my career. But the importance here is you do need to understand the fundamentals of accounting in order to grow. And in order for your career to be more diversified, you also need to have the confidence to be able to work in different roles. This is my opinion, but this is how I've based my career and how I have grown. My experience to date, actually, I started off in practice, like many of you, working in a top 28 chartered accounts firm in the UK. But since then, I've had the privilege of working both in private sector and public sector. So as you can see from my profile, I've worked in the public sector at local government level. So in the UK, if any of you are familiar, it's like local authorities or councils, and also central government, where basically working with some of the departments of various areas across the government and helping them to solve problems, value for money and how to actually commercialize the public sector, which has been really important. From my private sector experience, I've worked in industry and commerce, so different industries: transport, retail, financial services, and to the most current, a blend of education and sport. So again, as you can see, it's been very diverse career already. I've also dropped in my LinkedIn, but I guess that's already going to be shared, so I don't need to worry too much about that. So yeah, I just make the screen a bit bigger for some of you. So the first thing to really understand to getting a diverse career is, do you understand the current role of a modern accountant? I think traditionally it was very different to what it is now. Just to give you a quick flavor, I mean, I've just summarized a couple of bullet points which I've already kind of seen in my workplace and throughout my career, but accounting is actually a very dynamic field. It does not stand still. The kind of viewpoint before was that accountants are, sitting in the back office somewhere, double entry, and, they don't speak to anyone and they're just boring people. But that's completely not true anymore, I would say. I hope all of you agree with me over there. But modern accountants are actually problem solvers. We help to make decisions in organizations so they can grow, they can change direction, they can actually be helped in budgeting, forecasting, to find out, what are their underlying revenues, what are the underlying costs. So I would say modern accountants are actually commercial advisors. They can decide whether or not a firm should invest in a project. They can decide whether or not there's enough funds available to actually be able to diversify a global business. Modern accountants are also inspirational leaders. If you look at the FTSE 100, for example, a lot of those big top guys are actually accountants at heart. Whether they've done ACCA, CIMA, ICAEW in the UK, or any other accounting qualification globally, many of the modern accountants, I would like to repeat again, are inspirational leaders who have come from a background of accounting. So, when you're trying to understand and diversify, and the key to getting ahead is really understand what your role is as an accountant initially from the beginning of your journey, but most importantly, have the exposure and have the knowledge that where are you going to go in the future. So understanding the current demand is also another very important reason why an accountant should be aware of this. Now, what has caused the demand for modern accountants? Number one, as you currently know, we are currently facing a global pandemic, but accountants are actually even more busy now than they were before. So, in order to think ahead, you need to realize that accountants can work globally, accountants can work through any crisis, and accountants are there to support organizations so they can make decisions. They're decision makers. And one of the key decisions I've faced currently is, how do you grow and make a business profitable during a pandemic? So a lot of my work, even though I'm very commercial, has come down to analyzing key trends, key numbers, and driving down that kind of ratio analysis. Even looking at your costings, where can you save money essentially, and how do you do that? What techniques, accounting techniques, can you use? What knowledge can you kind of use from your relevant qualification and really add value to the organization? Just to conclude, accountants are key decision makers, and you are not going to be just sitting around doing debits and credits. You are actually going to be involved at some point in your career, whether it be at the beginning or at the end or in the middle, but you will be a key decision maker who will drive the business forward. So, diversity of career, like I've just given, I'll give myself example, but I started off in practice where I learned to deal with different clients. And by doing that, I got very confident in being able to speak to different levels of individuals, not just trainees, not just senior managers, but directors and senior members of the board. So I started my career luckily in practice, which gave me a good grounding. I moved into industry and commerce, which is more forward looking, I would say, because it's looking at management accounting, looking at forecasting, looking at budgeting. And like many of the speakers tonight, and many of you who work in industry already know, that hours could be long. You have very hard deadlines and you need to meet them Doesn't matter if you stay all night at your workplace or you take your laptop home and work, but you need to be very dedicated, very hardworking, and organized. And that is one of the key reasons that many accountants really go ahead, because they are very hardworking, flexible, and dedicated. Um, After working in industry and commerce, I've also had the privilege of working in public sector. Now, one of the key reasons which I really enjoyed public sector was the culture is very different from a corporate sector. But in order to save money for the government, or to add value, or to work on projects which are not going to be very easy because of relevant political changes, or if one year the votes change, for example in UK the Labour government could have started a project and the Conservatives coming, straight away you see budget cuts. So the key to getting ahead is really understanding budget setting, budget monitoring. It doesn't matter whether in corporate sector or corporate sector or public sector, but at the end of the day, you need to really understand how to work on spreadsheets, how to understand how to work on different types of projects, not just financial, but sometimes you could be working on non-financial projects. And if you understand the core principles of accounting, it will really help you to become a very, very valuable member of the team. And the final point is you have to remember your qualification, wherever you started, is global. So for me, ACCA, I started off in UK, but I've had the pleasure of working in different countries or even organizations which are very global. And I follow international IFRS laws and regulations. So, in the end, have a knowledge of, what's the different standards that are currently happening in the market. In UK, for example, IFRS 16 or different types of standards are having an impact. Brexit, it potentially could also lead to more impact on the accounting and the way firms operate. So one of the key areas to get ahead is make sure you're always continuously learning and being aware of the new legislation and new standards that are coming out. For me, I'm lucky because ACCA have many webinars, many seminars, and talks such as this today, where you can actually understand and be really comfortable at anything new and ask questions. Right. The next thing is actually education as well. So I've kind of had a very diverse education, and I think many of you potentially could also start thinking about how to diversify your education. So that I've summarized this in three different types of education. You have your academic, obviously, your bachelor's, your master's, and then following on, you could do an MBA as well. So that's really good and really fundamental as well if you love studying. And I know many of my colleagues in Nigeria are very well studied, and many of them are actually PhD, doctors. I call them doctors now. So it's quite funny when we're both accountants, but I have to call one doctor. So people are like, oh, wow, amazing. The other one is a professional qualification. So, ACCA or CIMA or any relevant qualification will really help you to open doors and show your credibility. I also understand many of my colleagues are not qualified, but they have loads of experience and they're professionally qualified. What I would say to this is, in the modern times, I feel that a qualification would add more value, but allow you to enter more doors very quickly. By no means, you don't have to do a qualification. You could be part qualified, or you could have worked for many years and be really successful. So I'm not discriminating against someone who hasn't got a qualification, but all I'm saying is a qualification will really help to add and grow you quicker. And then you've got industry-wide qualification. So even after I qualified, you have to remember that if you still want to push, you still want to go ahead, you want to become a CEO, a CFO, a top board director, then you still need to learn more. And there are different types of qualifications. I've just given a few here where, like, for example, Prince 2, if you're good at project management, you want to work on multinational public sector projects, I would advise you to look into those after you've finished your qualification, because these are industry-wide qualifications and world-renowned as well. Another one, Six Sigma, so it's a changing environment. I've worked in areas where you have to change a process. It's not just about accounting, you have to change a system. And these qualifications will really help you to understand those even more and give you that kind of edge, which many people are always looking for to kind of work in certain companies or certain industries. And to conclude that this point about education, I would always recommend always do your CPD. Always try to make sure that you spend an hour a week, 2 hours a week. I'm not talking about 40 hours a week. I'm just talking about 1 or 2 hours a week over a course of a year is really valuable for you and for your career and for your progression. Right. The next one is skill sets. Really important now, especially due to COVID, but especially due to the future of accounting. I think many of the my speakers or the previous people who have spoken tonight have mentioned a lot of skills. I've just summarized a few of those skills in categories, really. So your hard skills are the ones you need. Your soft skills are really important now in terms of can you communicate effectively? Are you someone who needs to improve your public speaking? I remember when I was at university, I was very nervous. I couldn't speak to anyone. But over time, practice, be confident. How do you effectively communicate? Communication is not just about talking. I'm currently doing a PowerPoint presentation to you. So, can you communicate in a simple way or a complicated way? But at the end of the day, can people understand what you're talking about? Another one, soft skill, which is really important now, is whilst you're working at home or working remotely, teamwork is really important. You need to be able to work together physically, face to face, or on the communicating via telephone, but also working globally together. Remotely is really important because many of my clients are based not just in the UK, they're in USA, they're in India, they're in Brazil. So I have to be able to communicate with them very clearly and very concisely. And I feel that to get ahead, you need to be able to have not just hard skills, but also soft skills. IT skills, wow, this is a big one. I mean, IT skills could mean, having great knowledge of PowerPoint and Excel, which I feel was the norm. But now, as the world has changed, also the future of accounting has going to be changing with artificial intelligence as well. I would advise to start looking at ways of how you can build your knowledge. You don't have to do it every day. You don't have to work in IT. But I'm currently working in IT, coming from a background of accounting, and I have to learn continuously about different methods of working, different methods how my company can implement IT strategy to improve and create more efficiencies within the organization. So I've had the pleasure of doing a systems implementation, but again, I had to use some of my accounting skills like budgeting, make sure you don't overrun your budget, because if you do, then potentially your systems implementation will be either not very good or could cause future problems. So, in conclusion to skill sets, I would say continuously develop, but also get an understanding of what area you want to work in the future, because that's going to be really important in your career. Okay, next, variety of exposure. Now, this is my things which I'm doing outside of my workplace. And this has given me actually more to think about and a way to get ahead of my cohort, I would argue, because these are the kind of things which really help you to grow and add more value. I think that's the one of the key terms I've heard a lot today. And I would like to share my couple of experiences, which many of you probably doing something similar or might be doing something different. But at the end of the day, try and do something outside of the work is my recommendation. So one of the key things which I'm part of right now is ACCA UK panel member. So what this means is helping ACCA strategize and commercialize their ways of working and attracting and retaining and improving the qualification. I've been very lucky to meet so many great people on ACCA, not just in the UK, but like today globally. So it's really important to get involved in many things outside of the organization. Another thing which I'm doing completely outside of accounting is I am a member of University College London Hospital as a trust member. And my role is basically reviewing the end of year what are decisions that have been made or adding value by using my experience from financial side, even IT side, even commercial side, to really be a valuable trust member to make decisions on how to run the hospital and what projects are potentially really good and what projects could be something which does not need to be done right now and it's kind of a great role to give advice. My third kind of key tasks, which I've been doing this year as seminars to educate the future generation of accountants, is working as a careers and enterprise advisor. In UK, we have a lot of schools which have a careers advisor, but they do not have anyone who's worked in the accounting industry or in finance. So, as my role, and as I encourage all of you to become advocates of accounting, it would be great to kind of educate the future generations on how accounting is, what your experiences are, and that will add a lot of value to you as an individual as you're working through your career because you'll be able to communicate and really pass your knowledge and share that with other individuals. And my final experience outside of work as an educational consultant. So what this entails is teaching. So I teach a lot of people outside of work in accounting, business, economics. And again, some of these skill sets are transferable to you as an accountant. What listening to me today. So please bear in mind that you might be doing other things outside of accounting, which you should use as a key to getting ahead because you've got the skills you might not realize you have. So please bear that in mind. Right. One of the most important things as we're doing today is also networking. Don't be afraid to reach out to people within your community, within your industry, and share knowledge and learn together. Accountants are really, I would say, sometimes bad at networking because we are so engrossed in our year end and our month end, and we just have no time. But try to make some time, like today, spend a bit of time, listen to other people, listen to people who've got experience in different fields, share knowledge if you've got something which someone else might need. And I think that will really help you to get ahead, to network, and people will also know you. They'll know who you are, how you're working. And I think that's really important as well because something which people underestimate the power of networking and the power of working together. This will lead to both personal growth and I would say personal success and be able to help other people in the future the way I'm doing today and sharing my knowledge. So I hope all of you can really take something out of today and go ahead and develop your careers, be confident and try and do things a bit differently to a traditional accountant will get you noticed and will get you ahead. So yeah, I think that's it really. I'm just going to give you a quick conclusion and a few things which I've talked about today, but more or less, diversity of career involves not just the roles you do, the industries you work in, but also the diversity of your education, your skill sets, and your exposure to different people, different networks, different communities. All of these will really help you to achieve a really successful career and also help you to get ahead of your cohort potentially and work not just in Nigeria or in Africa, but I would think that you'd be able to work globally with these sort of things if you can kind of plan it in your journey and really take an interest of doing things outside of work. So yeah, I think that's all really. I mean, it's not much, I guess, but I think it's something for all of you to think about and really digest.
Yes. Thank you for that excellent presentation. It was simple and very easy to understand. And I'm sure our notes are full. So thank you very much. I think I have one quick question before we move because we're already out of time. Just
Sure.
one question. How can a finance professional keep up with the fast-paced change in the industry? You talked about developing skills and all, but we all know that even before, for some skills, before you master it, it has already evolved. It has gotten to something, there is a new way of doing it. So how do you think finance professionals can keep pace with these changes?
I think so. Okay, I would say that one of the easiest ways to keep change is whichever qualification you're doing, there's always updates, there's always webinars such as this. So one of the quickest ways and also the easiest ways I would say is log in and check out the online webinars. Because for me as ACCA, there have been so many webinars, even during the daytime, or you can recorded ones and you can really just spend an hour or 45 minutes listening, digesting, understanding the different changes that are coming our way. The second thing I would say is obviously have a really good network or leaders in your organization. Spend time with them. I don't know many of you if you do mentoring. I'm a firm believer that if you have a mentor at your work, they will push you in the right way, challenge you, and guide you so you can become the next leader, the next CEO, the next CFO. So I think it's really important not just to concentrate on technical stuff, be confident or be really pushing for working with people who've done this before, because their experience and their knowledge will rub on you. You'll be able to learn so much, and potentially what you've learned you can even improve that and go a step further. So my advice is try and learn as much as you can at work, but at the same time do have the motivation to sit at home and spend time. Don't just watch TV all day. Don't just go on Facebook all day. Don't just spend all your time on WhatsApp. It's all great. I'm not saying that you don't have a life, but what I'm saying is think about what you're doing in a constructive manner. Use your time appropriately. I think organization and planning is really important. And think about things. Think about where you want to go, how you're going to achieve it, and really make those small steps to be able to do that. And I think that is my biggest advice is, there's no such thing as, oh, you should spend 10 hours doing this and, go and read this website. No, I think it's really about diversifying yourself to be able to tick many boxes, and that will really help you to achieve what you want to do.
Great. Thank you so much for your. Thank you. Please, do you have any other questions? Make sure you drop your questions. It would be in the chat box to reply your questions. All right, Kemi.